Hello and welcome to Better Living for Better Health. I'm Melody Nall, the Cancer Control Specialist with Kentucky Cancer Program. Our topic today is breast cancer. Actually, it's really surviving breast cancer. Hearing the cancer diagnosis for anyone is a traumatic thing to hear, but for a woman, hearing the words, "you have breast cancer," can be especially devastating. I want to share a few statistics with you and then I want to introduce my guest. Breast cancer is the most common type of cancer among women in the United States, and it's the leading cause of cancer deaths among women aged 40 to 59. It's second only to lung cancer as the cause of cancer death among women. Breast cancer accounts for 1 of every 3 cancer diagnoses in women. About 211,000 cases of invasive breast cancer will be diagnosed in women this year, and over 40,000 women will die from breast cancer. There are over 2 million breast cancer survivors alive today in the United States, and the number of deaths due to breast cancer seem to be declining. A combination of early detection and more effective treatments is thought to be responsible for declining death rates. That's good news. I also have 2 people here with me today that's going to share their good news. I have Paula Shell here with me today. Paula is a 15-year cancer survivor, and Cindy Spees is our 4-year cancer survivor. They both were diagnosed with breast cancer, and I thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story.
Thank you.
Paula, let's start with you. If you'll just share with us a little bit about your story, how your cancer was diagnosed, just the journey that you went through, if you don't mind.
Well, in 1990, I was 35 years of age and had not had my baseline mammogram, and found the lump myself, or found the spot on my breast, and I called the physician, and of course they recommended that I go get my baseline mammogram, and it was kind of downhill from there. Discovered I had breast cancer. Of course, it's not for sure until you go in and have the surgery. I had surgery, left breast removed, and my treatment was fairly aggressive. The way the doctors described it to me is like I had 3 strikes against me. I had a large tumor and my age, and also they found out I had lymph node involvement. I had the most common garden variety type, is the way as it is explained to me. Instead of in medical terms, I think it's easier to understand like that. But my breast cancer was caused by, it was fed by excess of estrogen. So the way they explained it to me, that they knew more about that particular type of cancer, and so I received a year of treatment. I guess it was 9 rounds of chemotherapy. I took 5 different drugs and 6 weeks of radiation, and 15 years later, I'm still here. So
Absolutely.
Evidently it was effective.
It was effective, and every year it's a celebration.
That's absolutely correct.
Absolutely. Okay, Cindy, let's hear your personal story.
Well, I was diagnosed when I was 45. I did not have any idea that I had anything wrong with me. I had my first mammogram, and I, like a lot of women, kept putting it off, thinking, okay, next year I'll get my mammogram, next year I'll get my mammogram. And so I kept putting it off, and so when I was 45, my first mammogram, it showed that I did have breast cancer, and the kind that I had was it was estrogen fed, but it was a type of breast cancer that women much older than myself usually had instead of someone at my age. And so I had surgery. I had a lumpectomy, and I was very lucky because of the mammogram, of getting my mammogram. They found it really early, and it was very small. And so I didn't have to have really invasive surgery. I had the lumpectomy, and then I had 36 radiation treatments. And that was 4 years ago. And so I'm still doing good.
Okay, okay. I know when we were preparing for the show, we were talking about, we probably will compare and contrast your stories, because I imagine 15 years ago, what was available when you were diagnosed is quite a bit different from when Cindy was diagnosed. So if you don't mind sharing, and just whoever wants to jump in here, what were some of the first things that, the questions that went through your mind, things that concerned you, and then where did you go to find the answers?
One of the first questions that came into my mind is, am I going to make it? Am I going to live? And at that time, I have 2 sons, and they were 5 and 2. And especially us of being mothers, that is our first biggest concern, I guess. Am I going to be able to raise my children? I'm a strong Christian, so as far as that, I was not afraid to die, but I wanted to be around to raise my children. And I'll share a little funny thing. Last couple of years that I have visited my doctor, when I was talking about it, and he said, well, now you better celebrate grandkids and college. And it's kind of a celebration for me because my oldest son is in his 3rd year in college, and my younger son is supposed to graduate this year.
He will graduate this year. Yeah.
So it's exciting, and it's been a long road about discovering it. 15 years ago, we didn't have computers, we didn't have internet. And my background is in education, so I went to the public library to try to find information on what was available. And I guess I was wanting to see the emotional side of breast cancer, how people would react to that. So I went and actually got books and famous people that had had breast cancer and read how they felt about it, and it helped me.
Okay.
So that's where I got my info.
Okay, so strictly the library. Okay. Cindy?
I actually got most of my information from my surgeon and from, well, mostly from my surgeon. He had just so much information, and there were so many different treatments, so many different ways to approach the surgery. The survival rate was, it's so much better now because of the mammograms, and I felt like that I was able to make some good decisions based on the information that I really got from more the medical field. I didn't get that much from the computer, but I got a lot of information from my doctors, and so that's, and I will have to say my first thought of cancer, even though we have a lot more information, the survival rate is much higher now that we have new technology and all, but just the word cancer, you still wonder, am I going to die? So, and I, like Paula, I have my Christian faith, and but I wanted to be here, of course, for my children. I have two girls, and now one of them is married, and the other one started her first year of high school this year, and things are great.
Good. Where would you say your support came? I know you both mentioned that you have families and you have children. Where would you say your prime source of support was from the beginning?
For me, I think it was, I had real support from my friends, family, and church. But I think nobody truly understands unless a woman has walked in those shoes. And I was lucky enough to meet 2 or 3 women, and I just felt like it was my own little support system within themselves, being able to talk to those particular type of women. And I happened to go to an event that was in Louisville, and I don't remember what it was about, but it was about breast cancer, and saw all these women, from the Louisville area that had this special bonding of friendship. And I know how talking to a woman personally made me feel so much better. There's a lot of issues that's hard to talk to about personal things that maybe someone else might not understand, and it was helpful for me, so I thought that it might be helpful to have a local support group here.
Okay. How about you, Cindy?
I got most of my support from the very start from my family and from my church family, and I really didn't know anyone that had breast cancer when I got breast cancer. Several years ago, I had known of a lady that I was very close to that had passed away, and they didn't. Now, she probably would live now because we have come so far. But I got my support then. I had a lady come and visit me that had had breast cancer. And she came from a group that is here in Paducah that gets information, sometimes maybe a name that, would come and talk to you if you want them to.
Okay. Now, is
And
that
so-
the Reach to Recovery group?
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
okay.
It's Reach to Recovery. And so she came and talked with me, and then she told me about the local support group that we have here in Paducah, the Cancerport group, and which, to be honest, at the time, I didn't think I needed it. I thought that, I had my family, I had my church group, and I didn't think I needed it. But as time, as a few months went on, I realized that I needed to talk to someone, that had been through what I had been through,
Right.
and could relate to me,
And the Reach for Recovery program that was important to me is because being able to see a woman come in, because I knew that I was going to lose a breast. At that point, I thought I was going to have chemotherapy and I was going to lose my hair. And that is a traumatic event for a woman to be able to lose their hair. And to be able to see a person come into the hospital, with her makeup on and her hair done and her jewelry, and she looked pretty. And I thought, I can still look pretty even though I've had breast cancer. And I had forgotten that until you all started talking about that, and I remember. And that was important to me to be able to get back to that point.
Absolutely.
And it was good to see that person. So, and I had forgotten that till you mentioned that.
I think that's a great point. There are so many issues related to the cancer diagnosis, from the physical needs that you have, and you can rely on your medical professionals, but then you also have the emotional needs, and then you have those questions that maybe you don't want to ask anybody or you're afraid to ask. And I think that's where finding someone, exactly like you said, that has been through it, they've walked in your shoes, and they can relate. And it may not be the exact story, it may not be the exact breast cancer, but they know some of the issues that you're relating. So I'm glad that we have those resources here in our area. We were talking about Cancerport, and that's something I do want us to talk about. That is a breast cancer support group, and that was founded not long after your diagnosis. Could you just give us a little bit of history
It was
about
probably
that?
a couple years after that, and I think I mentioned earlier about going to Louisville and meeting with other women, and they had a support group there, and I just know how comforting it was for me to talk to other women. And I thought, if I find comfort in talking to other women, then other people would too. And I'm kind of an outgoing type person. It's hard for some people to meet with someone. So that's kind of how the idea of Cancerport came about. We started meeting at first in people's homes until we kind of outgrew homes. And then we had one lady in the group. Her husband was a physician, so she offered her husband's office as a place to meet, and we've just expanded. And one thing that I will talk about, that Cindy and I talk about all the time, because a lot of ladies will say, is it gloom and doom? Is it like that? And as Cindy and I always say, if you'll come one time, you'll find it's not gloom and doom. We have a lot of laughter, and we look at the little things in life that are much more important. And I know we're supposed to get up every day and be that way, but most of us are not like that until we've experienced breast cancer. So we look at things a little bit different now.
Yeah.
So.
And I know we'll talk more after the break about specifics about Cancerport, but Cindy, if you'll just share briefly, what has Cancerport meant to you since you've come to the group?
Well, it has just been such an emotional support. All of the women, whether they have had the same type of breast cancer, the same surgery, the same treatments, we're all there for the same reason. And it has meant so much to just have that emotional support and know that you can talk with these women and know that they're not embarrassed to talk about it. They're not, they're very open, and you can ask them just about anything, and they're going to be honest and open with you. And it's just the emotional support that you do not get from someone who has not had breast cancer, that they just don't understand the same way. It's just a different understanding than if you've actually been through it. Like Paula said, you have to walk in those shoes.
Right.
And it has just meant so much to me. We've had so much fun. I've met so many new friends, and we're a fun group. We're a very close group, but we always welcome, new people, and always offer that support.
That's what I was going to ask. What was it like walking in for the first time to that group? Is that a frightening thing, or?
It wasn't for me.
Okay.
But I'm not. I'm more of an outgoing person. I have more of an outgoing personality, and no, it wasn't. It wasn't scary for me to walk in, and from the time I walked in, it was like it was just a peace,
Felt like you were with sisters, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to take a break here, and we'll be showing you some cancer statistics about breast cancer in Kentucky and some resources. We'll be right back. We're back, and we're with Cindy Spees and with Paula Shell, and we're talking about breast cancer survivorship and specifically about a breast cancer support group that meets right here in Paducah. That group is called by the name Cancerport. Paula, how did we come up with the name Cancerport? Do you remember that?
Well, we originally had the name Can Survive, but we found out that that was already a patent name. So somebody thought of the name Cancerport, and you can kind of see why we got
Figure that
that.
one out.
And it kind of stuck, and it's a catchy name,
It
so
is
and easy
catchy.
to remember.
Absolutely. And I agree. Cindy was telling us earlier that it's a fun group, and I have the privilege of attending your meetings, and it is a fun group, and I enjoy being there with you. What I would like for us to do for the time that we have remaining is talk about the specifics. When does the group meet? Where does it meet? And then I want you to tell us a little bit about the ladies. We'll just start there. Tell us about when and where.
We meet the second Tuesday of the month. We meet at the Women's Health and Wellness, which is the Lourdes Medical Pavilion at 6 o'clock. And sometimes we have speakers, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we just sit around and chat and, talk about personal stories and so forth. A lot of things that we've been involved with through the years. In October, the BMW Drive that is sponsored by the Susan Coleman Foundation, which is actually a fleet of cars that come in and drive. And where can you have a fundraiser where you can drive a car and raise money for breast cancer? So that's kind of a fun event, and we participate in the Relay for Life every year. And Bells of Hope, which is in October, because October is National Mammography Day, I guess you'd say, or month, national. And so we do a lot of things, and we also have a lot of fun with it, too.
Okay. Let's talk about a meeting. If somebody were to come into that meeting, we were talking about a first-timer, because I would think that we were already talking about it can be very emotional. If someone wanted to attend but they were apprehensive about coming the first time, what would your advice be to them?
I think we've talked about, if somebody felt uncomfortable about coming in by themselves, to call, Reach for Recovery, we mentioned that, is a program where you go in and visit women. Sometimes I will get calls about women through physicians, and we'll call them on the phone if they feel uncomfortable. We'll meet them at the door and walk them in. But really, I don't think we've had any problem with women feeling uncomfortable about coming in. And we have all age groups too. We've got one lady that's 91 years old, and she's an inspiration to us all. Just comes in all fixed up, head to toe, and just looking good. And it's nice to see those kind of women. And then also we've had women as young as 25. She's not in our group now. She's moved on. But we have all ages. So it's kind of like almost like a sisterhood or something. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, probably.
Now, if someone comes to the meetings, is it okay for them to come for a while, and then maybe if they have their needs met, it's okay not to be involved any longer? Or is it pretty much once you're there, you just stay? Or what have you
it's
seen
funny.
with
Some of
women?
us have kind of stayed and stayed and stayed. But some of us come for a period of time when they're undergoing treatment, when they feel like they've got their life back together and they moved on. But some of the rest of us have been there, and we just found like our own little personal system or friends. I don't know what you would say, but anyway, we just keep hanging in there, I guess.
I think sometimes it's like Paula and myself, we just keep staying, and like some of the other women do too. But that can also be a good thing and an inspirational thing to the people coming in, because we're there and have been there for a while, and have more of an idea of how to approach people and maybe talk with these ladies. Someone that's been there a while. We're kind of a well, you especially are a veteran, but it's. It's fine if you don't want to come, except for a short period of time. Sure. But if you'd like to stay, you have a lot of women that have stayed, and could be a lot of support to you.
Okay. You were talking about the length of time, and I think hearing the word survivor and seeing someone, especially Paula being diagnosed so young at 35, and then to see someone as a 15-year survivor, I think that's very inspirational for women who are newly diagnosed, because of all the fears that come into the minds when they hear that word cancer. So from a health professional standpoint, I would just say thank you for what you do, because I know it's very beneficial. As far as other things that Cancerport has been involved in, share what maybe some of the topics you've discussed in your meetings that maybe come up on a regular basis. What are the common concerns for women going through breast cancer?
Well, chemotherapy has a lot of side effects, and I had said, as Cindy said, that both of our breast cancers were estrogen fed, and there is a particular type of medication, tamoxifen, that women are on, and there's a lot of side effects to it. And it's nice to be able to talk. You think you're the only one having the hot flashes out there, but then you talk to someone else. And some of my friends, it's hard to understand, but like with Cindy, she understands totally what I'm going through. So, I know that sounds awfully silly, but it's not awfully silly, because, some people just don't understand. And I don't know. It was a comfort to me, I'll put it
so
like
questions about side effects, questions about chemotherapy, probably even questions about if they haven't had the radiation yet, what is that like? What am I going to, what am I looking forward to as far as those types of treatments? And you've been there, so you can share with them firsthand.
How long I'm going to lose my hair, what are
Right.
the side effects from that? And another thing that brought back to me just by talking to you, another girl that had talked to me when I was diagnosed told me that her head would start tingling right before her hair came out. And I thought, what a neat thing, because that's exactly what happened to me before my hair started falling out. Just little things that the physicians don't really think about, that you can find out by talking to other women, and how you relate to your husband, especially if you've lost your breast. We've had intimate conversations. So,
And that's important. That's an important part of our
and that's
life.
hard sometimes, I think, to discuss with a physician. So we can talk about that kind of stuff too sometimes.
Good. If you could give a word of encouragement or words of wisdom to women, either however you want to do it, and it can be both, if it's screening and prevention or early detection, or if it's speaking directly to someone who's been recently diagnosed, I'd like to start with you, Paula. Any words you would like to give? I would
Well, the
appreciate
best
that.
advice is make sure you get that baseline mammogram. Different people disagree on that. 35 to 40, I think, is the time range. And also find out your family history. I didn't know till after I was diagnosed with breast cancer that I have a family history. And if you have a family history of breast cancer, you need to be aware of it at an early age. There's tests that they can do and so forth. You know, you need to consult your physician about that. But the best thing that I would probably say, excuse me, is early detection and be aware of all the things that are out there. Like 15 years ago, there weren't all the information that you can find today. It's just amazing the information that you can find today. And to me, it was such a comfort to find it in books, and now you can just go to the internet and pull up all this stuff. So I've seen a lot of progression in the last 15 years, so that's a good thing too for me.
Yeah. Okay. Cindy, words of wisdom, encouragement?
I think the main thing that I would tell women is not to be like myself. I think some of us have heard horror stories about mammograms and about they're painful, or you know, you're just scared to do that, and you can't let that keep you from getting that mammogram. It's very important, and I feel like that you know, that mammogram is what saved my life, because I was told if I had waited another year, it would have been too late. So
The treatment options would have been different for you at
yes,
that point.
very different, and I would have not had near the optimistic outcome that I have.
Yeah.
So
Great.
I would say get that mammogram, and also I think that especially women like myself that have girls in your family, pass that knowledge on.
Absolutely. Not only are we sisters within our support group, but we want to be good moms to our
Yes.
children.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here with me today. Paula Shell, Cindy Spees.
Thank you.
Your stories are wonderful with your encouragement. And to our audience, thank you for being here with us as well. Remember to have those annual mammograms after age 40, have those clinical breast exams annually, and do your monthly breast self-exam. We have more information. If you need more, please contact my office, Kentucky Cancer Program. Until next time, we'll see you then. Thank you.